Hey everybody, welcome. Aloha. I'm Natalie, and this is Life After a Cult, the channel where we expose cult nonsense. We laugh at the absurdity, and we hopefully unbrainwash ourselves in the process. All right, today, you all, Relatable Reese is saying enough is enough, and we're going to talk about it. It's like we've hit peak culty chaos here. With the cult news, because between Scientology's latest courtroom tantrum, John Travolta partying like he's never seen an e-meter, and a Mormon lawsuit that made Aaron Smith-Levin blink twice, it's a lot of it is very shocking. It's safe to say that the Thetans are not all right, people. In Scientology, the Thetans are not okay. So we're going to unpack this mess one headline at a time. And we do have a question of the day. So if you're in the live chat, welcome. Thank you, moderators, for being here, and members and everyone in the live chat. I see you there. Aloha to you. Welcome to everybody catching this on the replay. I would love it if you jumped in those comments and you shared your thoughts as we go along. Our question of the day today is, if you had to start your own cult, what would your top 2 rules be? Put those in the live chat if you're here live. If you're on the replay, I would love to see your answers in the comments. So please go ahead and do that. I want to know, and make them funny, because your girl needs a good laugh on a Wednesday. All right, so let's jump in. Where are we here? There is this short that just cracked me up. What Mario character would you be? What Mario character would be a Scientologist if you had to pick one? Yes, somebody did a video about it and made it into a short, and we are going to watch it. Now, I have not played Mario since probably I was a kid back in the 80s, and I'm sure there are so many more new characters. I am just not familiar. I'd have to ask one of my kids, or maybe if my grandkids know. I bet you my grandson Oliver knows. But we're going to watch this and see what Mario character they thought would be a Scientologist.
Religion is Wario.
I think he's probably a Freemason.
Is that a religion?
I know. I think he just believes in himself. I don't think he believes in any deity. He just nope. I believe in money. Wah!
Sidebar: who do you think would be a Scientologist in the Marioverse?
Oh,
Okay, I have my answer.
Who is it?
Birdo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great pick.
Thank you.
I couldn't think of one, but
I was like, wait, no, yeah, it's Birdo.
yeah, I would say Birdo. Whack job. What religion is Wario?
I think he's probably a Freemason.
Yep.
Now, I don't even know who Birdo is. That's how out of touch. I kind of vaguely remember something, a character like that. So maybe you guys are familiar. Like I said, it's been a million years since I've played Mario, a very long time. Pincha Leslie, did you guess the right one? That is crazy if you did. I wouldn't even have known. Jamie Castro, I'm with you. I have no idea. I have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, now, something I do know something about, and that is Scientology Streets LA, outside the Hollywood Testing Center, catching them with the doors open. He is bull baiting them, and I am so here for it. Bull baiting in Scientology is when they push your buttons to try and get you to react. And if you react, they will do it over and over and over again until you no longer react. And I love that Scientology Audit Streets LA, William Good, is turning the tables on them and doing this. It is hilarious. He's just trying to figure out how to get himself removed as a suppressive person. And there is a procedure, by the way. I'm going to share it with y'all too. Yeah, there is. I'm going to send it to him as well. We talked about it the other day when I had him on the channel, which, by the way, if you did not catch my interview with William Good, do check it out. It's on my channel. Go under live, just go down a couple of videos and you'll see it. He shared all kinds of stuff, including some future plans and some really good best practices on protesting and people who maybe want to join, where they can go, what they can do. But for now, let's take a look at what happened when he was outside the Hollywood Testing Center.
Hey, listen, I don't want to be a suppressive person anymore, okay? How do I get off the list? Hey, don't do it. Don't do it, man. Don't close it. How you going to do that? I'm just trying to get off the list. You closed the door right in my face. That's not right. I came here in peace. I've been nothing but nice to you people.
He just wants to no longer be seen as a suppressive person, and there's procedure for that. Moose on the loose, I see you. Did I see Feral Cheryl too? I think I saw Dusty. I'm going to be sharing that procedure, and y'all might be able to use it at the protest. It might be kind of fun. Let's listen to what else happened.
Just trying to ask questions, and you guys are so rude. I'm not happy about being labeled a suppressive person. You guys know what this is about? So look, it says here, a suppressive person, often abbreviated SP, that's me, is a term used in Scientology to describe the antisocial personalities who, according to L. Ron Hubbard, make up about 2.5% of the population. The term is often applied to those whom the church perceives as its enemies, such as those whose disastrous and suppressive acts are said to impede the progress of.
Now, did you hear that part about it being 2.5% of the population? L. Ron Hubbard's own words, that suppressive people only make up 2.5% of the population. Does somebody want to tell me, because I'm not great at math, but why so many former Scientologists are declared suppressive people if only 2.5% of the population are actually suppressive? I swear I haven't run the numbers recently, but I feel like they're out there declaring half of the Scientologists, maybe even 3/4. Sandy McKenna says it's easier to get Taylor Swift tickets than forgiveness from the Church of Scientology. Well, wait till you guys see what that forgiveness means, what it takes. In case you've been wondering, how do we get off the list of being suppressive people? Will Natalie ever not be declared a suppressive person by Scientology? I don't know. My only terminal, as they call it, because there's no people in Scientology staff. They are all terminals. My terminal is the International Justice Chief. So, I left a message. Maybe they'll call back because I was like, I got curious. I don't know. What will it take? I know what the steps are. All right, let's finish this video. Oh,
That's definitely me. Hey, listen.
I guess there wasn't much left to it. So let's take a quick look at this. And I'm going to share some thoughts with you guys about this, because in Scientology, if you have been declared a suppressive person, you can do what are called the A to E steps. Yes, Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard always said to leave that door open just a crack, so that they can come back. And properly labeling someone, L. Ron Hubbard in all his wiseness also said, will help them come back into the fold. So you're doing them a favor if you're labeling your child, your parents, your loved ones, suppressive people, because you're leaving the door open just a crack. So let's take a look. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to give you the highlights, because this thing is crazy. This is from an actual policy letter in Scientology on the A through E steps, step A, B, C, D, and so on, that you do to no longer be a suppressive person. It's like step A basically is stop being evil immediately. No more suppressing people. Also, stop thinking your own thoughts, because they're dangerous. That's pretty much step A. Step B, confess loudly and publicly. Write a letter saying you were wrong, brainwashed, confused, and maybe allergic to thetans. I don't know what it might be. Make sure, though, that you sign it in front of a witness. You broadcast it to the world. And, for good measure, throw in a conspiracy theory if you can, just to spice it up when you're answering this step. If you're a suppressive person and you want to get back into Scientology good graces. Now, they have extra steps. Step B1, pay off all your debts to Scientology. Even that $14.99 Dianetics audiobook you forgot about in 2003, this would be the time to go ahead and pay for those things. So that takes us through what? B1, which requires all debts to be paid. Then there's B2, submit an amends project petition. So you have to do an amend project. Okay. You got to make up the damage. But before you do it, you need to submit it to Scientology for your terminal to sign off on it, because basically a spiritual apology mixed with a parole hearing. That's kind of like what it kind of feels like. And then you beg the International Justice Chief to let you sweep their sidewalks or clean their e-meters, a handout promo. Maybe that's what that one guy we've been seeing outside the Hollywood Testing Center is doing. I don't know if he's staff, but he's been caught out there handing out Scientology propaganda. You also have to include evidence of a, quote, Genuine ethics change, like getting a job or not committing crimes, and projects must benefit mankind and not involve any Scientology building, staff, or even, paper clips. Step C, you have to re-enter the bridge to total freedom at the very bottom. So let's say you made it all the way up to operating Thetan level 7 or 8. Too bad, so sad. You go down to you start at the beginning. Helicopter, you want to pay attention because, you've been suppressive since you were 6 years old, and these are the steps to get you out. So after you've done that, right, you got to go back to the bottom to do your bridge to total freedom, right? Which means shelling out more money for the how to hold a clipboard without being suppressive course, right? Many of the courses in Scientology. All of this gets filed. Every sad, groveling detail goes into your permanent ethics file. It's like a school record, but with more e-meters and a ton more shame. Then they tell the big boss, okay? Once all the humiliation tasks are complete, they send your suppressive person pardon request to the International Justice Chief with photocopies and probably a gold star, I would think. And then, you get approved and you are no longer a suppressive person. Did you guys know that there were steps where you actually could no longer be a suppressive person? I don't know if you guys knew this. Is this new news? Tell me in the chat. Tell me on the replay, because I'm telling you, this is some serious next level. And I know of people, I should say, who have done these steps and gotten back into the good graces. In fact, if memory serves me right, and fact check me in the chat if I'm getting it wrong, Neil Gaiman, author, right? The one in all that trouble, Neil Gaiman. Yes, that Neil Gaiman. His father at one point was declared a suppressive person, and I do believe did these A through E steps. He did something and then was able to go ahead and get that lifted. I'm sure it was a scandalous time in the Gaiman family when that happened. Probably caused all kinds of confusion. All right, where am I at here? I could talk about those A to E steps all day long. It's basically like steps so that you can kiss the ring. You got to get back to where you can take the knee and kiss the ring of David Miscavige. That's when yeah, I'm back in Scientology's good graces. So if anybody wants a copy of that because you want to get in the good graces, let me know and I will send it to you. Something tells me I'm not going to be getting a lot of those emails. All right, now let's go over to Hollywood and look at Jessica Palmadessa did this hilarious short. That girl cracks me up. She cracks me up so much. As you all know, in fact, yesterday I had Phil Jones on and we were talking about the 20 billboards that have gone up in Los Angeles. And if you didn't catch that, you got more homework. Go check it out. Under live stream, scroll down, you'll see Phil Jones. He also shared a story of how he was once a Scientology operative and he was sent in on this secret mission. He halfway failed, but it's a good thing he did because what they wanted him to do was illegal. So great interview with Phil. Check it out. So in the meantime, though, let's go take a look at this video from Jessica Palmadessa because, Scientology has all these commercials like, are you curious? They're asking everybody who stands still long enough. Curious? Are you curious about Scientology? And now, wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Here's 20 billboards. Curious? Here's where you can get help leaving Scientology. Curious about Scientology? Here's where you can find out the truth about Scientology. And I love what Jess did.
You got Scientology out here in Hollywood asking if anybody's curious. And you got all of LA like, no, we're not.
Watch it again. Let's watch it again.
So you got Scientology out here in Hollywood asking if anybody's curious. And you got all of LA like, no, we're not.
That is so true. I love that so much. I absolutely do. Janet Burns. Thank you for being a member of the channel for 12 months. And if anybody else is interested in being a member, it's a great way to support the channel. Link down below. And Nancy will share a link in the chat as well. We do members only live streams. This week, we're doing it this Thursday, 4:30 Central Time. No thanks, Dave. I'm staying a proud, naughty, never in SP. I like that, Janet Burns. I'm with you on that. Oh, gosh. Jessica Palmadessa is so funny. All right, now let's go over to Clearwater and look at a clip. Actually, it's a short from Feral Cheryl on the loose. Feral Cheryl was approached by a young man who I thought was actually brave of him to come up and have this conversation. Very interesting. Let's take a look at what happened here. I do agree. I think she planted a seed.
I don't have anything
So the kid asked her, like, why do you hate Scientology?
against Scientology. I have something against the practices that disconnect family members from each other. My family were hurt by it. All my family were Scientologists. It is true. I know a different truth than you. My truth is what's true for me, and your truth is what's true for you, right? So my truth is different from yours. That's all. But it's still my truth. I don't have any.
I love that, Feral Cheryl. Great conversation. Answered his question. I can imagine. I'm curious. And Feral Cheryl, I know you're in the chat. Could you tell? That was just a snippet of your conversation, but was he a Scientologist or with a Scientology family? I can't imagine a random kid walking up and asking about that if you're not somehow involved in Scientology. Feral Cheryl says he was quite brave and annoyed at me, which makes me think he's probably from a Scientology family, because who else would ask that? Sandy McKenna, Feral Cheryl is so compassionate to the kids. I agree. That was great. Moose on the loose, giving some love to Feral Cheryl there. That is so lovely. Okay, we got to go and talk about a video that's up on Xenu TV. Mark Bunker has been taking videos from back in the day and putting them into 4K. And they are phenomena. They are phenomena, y'all. Phenomenal. And hey, but first coffee, Susie, I see you there. I'm so glad you're here. This is Jesse Prince. Now I'm gonna give you a little bit of backstory. Jesse Prince was a senior executive in Scientology, worked directly with David Miscavige, Office of Special Affairs. We need to wake you up for this. Hold on. Let's grab Davey. Oh, he likes wearing the popped collar, but I don't like the popped collar. I always want to put it down like that. I feel like that looks better. If it's like this, that's out uniform, right? And we have uniform inspections here, and I don't want Miscavige to fail my uniform inspection. So let's see. All right, one of you could use a bath, but you know what? It'll work. David Miscavige, wake up your people. Office of Special Affairs. Wake up. Okay, so we're about to get into some Jesse Prince, a little blast from the past, bringing it back up. Jesse Prince was key in helping my sister leave the Sea Organization. No, I'm sorry, Scientology. She was already out of the Sea Org. He was key in helping her leave Scientology. I didn't know this, honestly, until I left Scientology. I found out then that years previous, my sister actually had a conversation with Jesse Prince, and he helped her see that Scientology was a family-destroying human trafficking cult. Answered some questions, filled in some blanks for her, because my sister Lana was at Scientology's international base back in the day when she was a kid. 14 and trafficked into the Sea Organization. Sent to Scientology's international base with no guardian, no school, no nothing, no parent, just left to fend for herself up there. And she was absolutely miserable. But she saw things. My sister saw a lot while she was there. She's talked about some of it here on my channel, but because she was able to have that conversation years ago with Jesse Prince, it really helped her with her confidence of just going ahead and, leaving Scientology. And she was still quiet about that for a long time. So let's take a look at this video. This is Jesse Prince doing an interview, and this man spills the tea.
And the security there is quite phenomenal. They have
now he's talking about the security at the international base, okay? And he was involved in getting that set up. This is an important piece.
The fences where they have ground sensors
At Happy Valley.
at
At Gold.
Golden Air, even if you walk near the fence, they know it. The lights start coming on in the complex. They have night vision cameras, night vision scopes, and they had a location. You notice there's a mountain behind there on a little hill. They had an area up there called Eagle, where someone is constantly watching over the property all the time, a security guard, and they rotated his video and everything.
Constantly watching, ground sensors. Remember here, we are talking about a supposed alleged church. If you do attend any type of church, are there ground sensors? Is there someone watching the cameras all the time, 24/7? I'm going to go out on a limb and guess no. Why? Because it's culty as all get out to do that.
I know these things because I helped set up the security there. Ooh, you're talking about reaping what you sow.
But there's no way out.
No.
Because, of course, after he left, Scientology harassed him and did all of their usual stuff. Office of Special Affairs. Some of you, I don't know if you're new or you've been around for a long time. You probably definitely have files on Jesse Prince. You can go look them up. We're going to be sharing a lot of these videos from people back in the day because it really makes a point about the truth about Scientology and the abuses. So if you're not familiar, Office of Special Affairs with Jesse Prince, go back to your files and get familiar.
And then they have these nice looking fences where you can hardly see, but if you touch it, it cuts your hand. You bleed like crazy. It's like razor sharp on the top, so that if you try to come over.
There's no way out. That means it's a very nice looking prison.
Very nice, beautiful looking prison camp.
And how is Happy Valley secured in your time?
In my time, just by security guards.
So Happy Valley back then was where they had at that time the Rehabilitation Project Force, which I do believe Jesse ended up on.
Security guards.
Yeah.
Because
it wasn't developed yet.
There's some sensors. They put some sensors around the houses. When somebody tried to go out in the night, the light goes on.
That's right. And then security.
Your time there.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, a guy on a bike is coming, and he's got his club, he's got his mace, and all of these things.
And what was your meals? What did you get to eat there?
Leftovers.
Leftovers.
Yes, leftovers from whatever people were eating at Gilman Hot Springs. We got leftovers of that.
That means from
scraps. And it should be in the trash, but it was just leftover stuff that people didn't want to eat.
The terrible condition.
I remember too, when I worked in the Sea Organization in the galley in the dining room, the Rehabilitation Project Force people would come in, and it was so sad. It broke my heart. They did their own setup and stuff. So I often was gone and working on something else by then. But they would bring up their own food and all that. And it really is whatever was left, even in Los Angeles at the Blue Buildings. And I was so uncomfortable with that at the time. It was sad to see because they were treated so horrifically, not even like human beings. And again, this is an alleged church.
Very, very terrible. Very terrible. I lost weight. When I went there, I was nearly 200 pounds. When I got out, I was 142 pounds.
Within 3 months.
Yeah.
Within 3 months. He lost that much weight in 3 months on the Rehabilitation Project Force due to the lack of food and the ridiculous manual labor.
Did you ever recognize that somebody died under that condition, Sam?
In the group of people that I was with, no one died, but people became very ill quite regularly. I mean, incapacitated to the point where they couldn't stand up anymore. They were just laying down sick.
And how many people have been imprisoned at Happy Valley RPF?
There was about 40 people there when I was there.
Absolutely crazy and insane. That is on Xenu TV. Again, Mark Bunker is doing an amazing job getting these videos put up and getting them, especially in 4K. Mark Bunker is going to join me tomorrow, right? He's coming on the channel. Is it tomorrow? Yes, it is. 1 p.m. Central. We're going to talk about some of these videos. I'm sure we're going to talk about what's happening in Clearwater with Scientology wanting to buy that street. So bring your questions. We're going to do that tomorrow and have Mark Bunker on. In the meantime, definitely you want to go check out Xenu TV. If you're not already subscribed, check it out. Another OG, Tori Magoo 44. If you are not already subscribed to Tori, Go check her out. She does regular content, but again, on her channel, it's full of content from back in the day as well. And it is really interesting to see the evolution of protests of Scientology and how they respond. Yeah, no kidding, Sandy McKenna. The RPF giving Ozempic a run for the money. No kidding. Yep, Julia's so sad. You lost 60 pounds in 3 months. That is just like not healthy at all. It really is not. Let's see. And thank you, everybody, answering the question of the day. If you had to start your own cult, what would your 2 top rules be? We're going to go over some of those a little bit later. All right, now we got to go over to growing up in Scientology. Aaron Smith-Levin did a video that just... Who watched it already? Put a 1 in the chat if you've already seen it or part of it. Honestly, I didn't finish the last part. I had to back away. I was just like, again, just my mind was blown. We are going to look at a couple of clips. You have got to see the whole thing. Basically, Aaron did a breakdown of an interview on Mormon Stories podcast, interviewing these attorneys involved in this essay case and child essay case within the Mormon Church. And the attorneys, that team was interviewed, and Aaron did a whole breakdown. Good. I'm seeing your ones. Moose on the loose. I'm glad you guys saw it. Cool. You can jump in too with your comments about it. The parallels to Scientology are incredible. That is the mind-blowing thing. Everything this attorney said, you could just insert Scientology instead of the Mormons. If you listen to it thinking she's talking about Scientology instead of the Mormons, it totally plays. It totally plays, right? You those of you who've already seen it, tell me in the comments what you think about that. And if you're on the replay, get in those comments and tell me what you thought about it too. We're going to look at a couple clips, but my mind was blown. It changed my point of view on a few things that I actually just still need time to process. I still need time to process it. So let's go ahead and look at a clip here. Is this the first one? I think it is. Let's take a look.
That describes Scientology to a T.
So he had just played a clip of this interview, and he plays clips throughout. And when you hear it, it is going to blow your mind that it could completely be Scientology.
I was shocked to learn here that the Mormon Church actually has a hotline, a phone number, a bat phone, if you will, to call when they become aware of some sort of abuse of children. And that hotline is really, you might be like, oh, wow, they're elevating it to a level where it'll get addressed. No. They're elevating it to a level where it will be kept quiet, be handled, be managed, That is a little different than in Scientology. That is a little different than in Scientology. So in Scientology, there is, to some extent, a pressure not to send bad news up the line. There is a bit of a pressure there. They call it handle and report.
This is something that I actually forgot about. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot about Scientology that I've forgotten about. Thank God, right? But I had forgotten about this. And when I was, when you're in Scientology, a lot of the things that they do, you think, oh, we have to do it this way because it's protecting Scientology, right? This idea of not sending bad news up the line is a way to cover up abuses within Scientology. So listen to this.
Don't just send some information up lines that's alarming and it's a flap, it's a big deal. And so now you're putting it on the shoulders of your seniors to take care of. And it's weird because I actually could argue both ways on this. In many cases, again, L. Ron Hubbard said so much, he spoke out of both sides of his mouth that you could always seize on one thing he said in one policy to contradict something else he said in another policy. There's some aspect of Scientology policy that's like, Withholding vital information from people who need it is also kind of a crime. I'm using that word loosely here. Withholding vital information from seniors is a crime, but also creating a problem and sending a problem up lines without a handling is also a crime. So it's
Yeah, in Scientology, I remember multiple staff meetings where you're not allowed to bring up my former Scientology staff members, Seorg. Tell me in the chat. You remember you weren't allowed to bring up a problem unless you had a solution to it. So at a staff meeting, which they would have weekly on Thursdays after 2, later on, I believe in the evening, and they'd say, okay, flaps and handlings. So you couldn't bring up a flap or a problem unless you had a handling. So let's say you found something out that was really disturbing about what a Scientologist did, right? You can write reports on it. But if you're sending it up the line, the expectation is, what is the handling? What are you actually doing to handle it? That's right, Bob. Completed staff work. That's a system in Scientology where you had to figure out what the situation was, give the information, and then give a solution for this problem. And what if that person wasn't equipped to deal with that problem, right? What if it was child SA or some other type of crime? If you're not equipped to deal with that, which, let's be honest, nobody on staff in Scientology, for the most part, is equipped to deal with that. In fact, I would say nobody is equipped to deal with that. So the tools they're given are the tools of cover up, of covering it up, of hushing it up, of not letting it get out. You don't want to interbulate other Scientologists by them finding out that there are, PDF files within the community or other things. It's all about the cover up. Now, let's take a look. I'm going to show you another clip because this video was so intense with so much information. I was going through like, wow, I could do multiple clips. I'm like, it still won't communicate it fully. There is a call to action. I'm going to play you that. But y'all, I'm going to link this and everything I'm talking about at the end of this video. And you got to go check it out. So let's see. Let me share this other clip here with a good call to action.
Anyone who has ever been a victim of child sex abuse in Scientology, especially if there is a U.S. component to the story, to the experience. Even if you think I already know who you are, please, if you're watching this video, shoot me an email at growingupinscientology@gmail.com and say, if this is how you feel, I would like to be involved in any mass litigation that occurs against Scientology for violating the statutes that we are going to hear all about tonight, because this is how Scientology as we know it comes to an end, in my opinion. Anyone who has ever been a victim of child sex abuse in Scientology, especially if there is a U.S. component to the story, to the experience.
Send them an email. growingupinscientology@gmail.com. This is not the last we're going to hear of this. I think we're going to hear a lot more about this throughout the community. There's a lot going on with these lawsuits and the implications and what this means for Scientology. Office of Special Affairs has them shaking in their uncomfortable shoes. And it should. It should. So definitely go ahead and check that out. I'm telling you, it is like, ooh, maybe I'm getting, I left the messages today, like I mentioned earlier. Let me grab the hotline, y'all. Life After a Cult hotline. This is Natalie. How can I help you? Oh, good. Yes. I was hoping you'd call me back because I was reviewing the policy on not becoming a suppressive person anymore. And I just kind of wanted to check in and see what it would take to redeem myself. Okay. Cease all suppression. Step 1. All right. Well, I haven't suppressed anything or anyone today except the urge to scream into a pillow because Scientology is so culty. So, but still, I feel like we're off to a good start. What's the next thing? You want me to write a letter of confession publicly? Okay. Explaining how I was wrong, ignorant, and under the influence of what? Of what? SP vibes? Well, it's the same thing. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Should I mention that I once rolled my eyes at a Scientology pamphlet in 1996, or is that too suppressive? Pay back what money? $2,349.17. That's awfully exact. For what? When I took a course? No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, yeah, I walked out in the middle of a personality test. There were clipboards involved, but I mean, I didn't steal one. A different course? I don't know about that. I might have to dispute that. Yeah. Tell me about, okay, what about this amends project business? All right. You want me to what? Clean every e-meter in California and knit a sweater for mankind? I mean, I know it has to affect mankind. What exactly are you looking for there? Okay. And it has to be off Scientology property. Oh, because I'm too spiritually dirty to be near a vending machine on church grounds? Is that how it works? Okay, got it. Must benefit mankind. I got that. You said that. Cannot cause mild inconvenience to a Scientologist. Well, wouldn't that, I mean, it's making amends. Why would it be inconvenient? But okay. And it must be approved by the Grand Poobah of Ethics, otherwise known as the International Justice Chief, right? Well, no, of course I say Grand Poobah with respect. Do you know what the Grand Poobah is? Have you not watched the Flintstones? Yeah. I have to start back at the bottom of the bridge to total freedom. No, it's just how I say it every time. No, it's not sarcastic. Okay, maybe a little bit. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I mean, it sounds to me like you're telling me I need to figure out like how to bow without looking rebellious, how to not make direct eye contact with David Miscavige. And all this goes into my permanent ethics file. Ooh, do I get a report card too? Maybe a sticker if I don't roll my eyes too much. Okay. All right. Well, let me make sure I got this because I want to share this with my other SP friends who might want to no longer be declared. So number 1, confess publicly, right? Number 2, pay you money. Number 3, do community service, but don't inconvenience a Scientologist. And then start from scratch on the bridge and never look directly at a Scientologist for too long. Yeah, I added in that last part, but I feel like it's applicable based on what you said. Okay, and then hope someone in your ethics dungeon stamps my paperwork. Stamp it, stamp it, stamp it before the next solar eclipse. That would be good. Well, it's this thing with the sun and the moon. Well, you have been in there for a while, haven't you? Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think it's just easier. I think I'm just going to stay a suppressive person because honestly, I feel like it's the best title I've ever had. Yeah. All right. I'm going to have a cult-free day. I don't think you are. All right. But you know what? Hey, shout out for calling me back. All right. Bye-bye. Well, at least they called back, right? You got to give them credit for that. I hear all kinds of complaints that when people reach out to the International Justice Chief or the Continental Justice Chief, that nobody gets called back. And look, I got a call back. Not helpful at all. Because imagine that you're declared a suppressive person because you leave. Because remember, you all, if you've been with me from day one on my channel, you know one thing about me. If you know one thing about me, what is it? You know that I broke up with Scientology. I broke up with you, excommunicating me after the fact. No, I broke up with you. It wasn't me. It was all you. But okay. Okay, Scientology. All right, now we need to go over to Tom DeVocht Substack again because Tom DeVocht dropping the tea. Tom DeVocht, former Scientologist, former Sea Org member, now Substack author, and he is spilling the tea. And we got to look at this one. I could have done a video just on this. There's so much here. I'm going to link this down below. You can check out his Substack. You can subscribe for free. There's also a paid version if you want to support him that way. Go ahead and check it out. This is it here. He calls it the beginning of the end, Scientology in retrospect. I'm going to give you the TLDR, the too long don't read on this. Basically, according to Devo's new post, here's what was going on in the magical land of Clearwater and Hammett around the year, I think it was around the year 2000. Okay. This is where logic goes to die and shower pressure becomes a 6-figure ordeal because apparently David Miscavige, decided he wanted a shower that felt like standing under Niagara Falls. I mean, let's be real. Who doesn't want that? I so want that. And instead of just, I don't know, buying a nicer shower head at Home Depot, like a normal person, he had his staff / Scientology Sea Organization slaves demolish a brand new bathroom. This is like wasteful on an entire another level. He had them destroy a brand new bathroom, then build a mechanical room just for his spa experience. Now, if he wasn't a cult leader using money of parishioners and people who went into great debt to give that money, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a spa room, right? But no, you're supposed to be the head of Scientology. You're supposed to be a religious worker. So then they installed some custom heating and industrial grade pumps as well. Because, I guess you really need that spa to be pumping. And for what? All for the privilege of blasting his pores for 30 minutes a day, right? Because that's what saving the planet looks like, right, Dave? You got to have those good pores. And the best part about this, after demanding this luxe aquatic experience, he turned around and accused the guy who built it of being, get this, the biggest overspender in Sea Organization history. Yes, David Miscavige says tear down the brand new bathroom, build an entire mechanical room, and then accuses the guy who built it of being the biggest overspender in Sea Org history. Doesn't that sound on brand for David Miscavige? It is classic cult gaslighting. By the way, that reminds me. Yesterday, I did an interview with Jordan Horn, psychologist. We talked about gaslighting. Go check that one out too. It's on my channel. He shared some doozies about gaslighting and how it relates to not just Scientology, but you might watch it and realize that not only have you been being gaslit, but maybe even gaslighting yourself a little bit. Anyways, back to the tea on David Miscavige. So David Miscavige, I mean, you get it, right? He wanted a waterfall, right? You wanted the waterfall and it cost a whole bunch of money and it is completely upside down that this got done. If you don't get a committee of evidence, which is like a court martial kind of equivalent in Scientology, right? It's their form of a disciplinary hearing. You're not trying hard enough. You're not doing anything until you've been threatened or had a committee of evidence in Scientology. I myself, amazingly, only had one, but I pretty much kept my head down most of the time. So the goal is to push so hard, break so many things, and spend so much money that someone goes, yeah, you're the one. Let's promote you. Let's give you a committee of evidence. Let's scapegoat you. The more disasters you create and crawl out of, the more you're seen as a rising star. And this is kind of, I think, like in the article, he talks about just that. If you can kind of maneuver these pitfalls and still be bending the knee and kissing the ring of Miscavige, you can stay in good standing. Basically, it's like working for a toxic startup, except no salary, no weekends, and your CEO screams at showers and people. So Tom DeVoe gets asked to leave Flag and head to the Gold Base to finish Dave's fancy office building. And spoiler alert, this place really sounds like a mashup of North Korea meets The Walking Dead with a dash of Haunted Summer Camp, if you've seen the pictures, because he built this humongous building for the Religious Technology Center, which is pretty much just for David Miscavige. Everyone looks malnourished, ghostly, and vaguely radioactive on that base. No one talks. Eye contact, forbidden. Smiles, suspicious. We've heard this from so many people who are on this base, and Tom DeVoe, in this article, he confirms this as well. People salute with both hands, which sounds less respectful and more like they're surrendering to the absurdity of their lives. But you even had to salute David Miscavige's dog, which is crazy. In fact, Jess LaBarber, who's often in the chat, experienced that when she was in the Sea Organization. Honestly, the whole thing, if you read this article, the whole thing, it's like a plot of a horror movie where the twist is they're not zombies, they're just Scientologists. David Miscavige insisted the base was crawling with suppressive people. I mean, paranoid much? You would think he maybe got a little too deep into the cannabis, but we know he didn't, because if he did, frankly, he'd be kind of chill. I mean, it is legal in California, but we know they don't let Scientologists do that. But honestly, Office of Special Affairs, I feel like it would help chill him out a little bit. Get your man a little vape pen or something. I'm just saying it could help. Maybe he won't be going so nuclear all of the time on people, right? But no, he's not going to be able to get that. So he didn't want these suppressive people spreading lies about his character. You know, things like custom rainforests, plumbing requests, or psychologically torturing an entire base into blank-eyed submission. That's what he's done. That's what he did. Wild fabrications. Doesn't want him getting out, but it's gotten out. So this is chock full of even more. I'm going to link it down below so that you can read the whole thing and check it out, because there is a lot there. And he's got other articles too that you may or may not have seen. And that is on Tom DeVox Substack. And like I said, I will link it down below. Now we got to talk about this Danny Masterson thing. Danny Masterson's case. So the underground bunker, Tony Ortega, another person on Substack that you can subscribe to for free, or he has a paid version as well if you want to give him that added support. He did an article about this, and we're going to talk about it here because wait till y'all hear what happened. Wait till you hear what happened here. Look at this. Scientology appeal in Danny Masterson's civil suit attacks harassment claims. All right, so I had some thoughts about this, okay? This public debate defense, which it feels like what it's giving, right, with Scientology here. So Scientology is now arguing in their 71-page legal novella that online posts trying to silence Danny Masterson's accusers were actually just protected speech. Oh, y'all, it was protected speech. What were we thinking? Thinking it was harassment. It was totally harassment. And I kind of feel like the judge is leaning towards like, yeah, it was totally harassment. But we'll see. So they put out this 71-page legal novella, right? And you know, there's this part where they're talking about like healthy public debate, right? Like the harassment was just healthy public debate. Did Masterson commit crimes, or are women just allergic to celebrities? No, that would be a little bit more of a debate. But what Scientology is claiming is healthy public debate was not. It's harassment. And apparently harassment equals free speech if you slap enough legal jargon onto it, which is what they were trying to do. So here's the thing that they're saying now is that it wasn't Scientology or these other entities or other Scientologists or people related to Scientology themselves, the Office of Special Affairs, their representatives. No. Wasn't them. It was Danny Masterson. It was an assistant. It was an assistant. She did it. So she was freelancing, harassing his victims. Apparently, this is what they would have you believe. Masterson's assistant, Jenny Weinman, I think it's pronounced, allegedly tried to shut the victims up behind the scenes. We heard this before. Now, Scientology has a whole angle on this. They're all like, look, if someone's being shady and manipulative, that's not us. That's just them being passionate. Danny Masterson's assistant was just being passionate, right? Weinman wasn't our agent. She was just independently being sketchy. Well, I don't think the judge is buying it, because the judge basically said, nah, this isn't public debate. This is you trying to keep people silent, of which we were like, yes. He even brought up conspiracy between Scientology and its goons, a twist the plaintiffs hadn't officially raised. And then Scientology is like, objection. The judge is doing the plaintiff's homework for them. Which, I mean, come on, they got to object about something, I guess. So also Scientology was all, look, we're mad that the judge is using common sense, because how dare you use common sense? And conspiracy who? Us? Scientology? What? So Scientology claims there's no proof they coordinated with the folks harassing Danny Masterson's victims online or in private. And I know a lot of you are like spitting up your coffee right now, maybe mildly vomiting in your mouth. I'm right there with you. Despite the fact that the lawsuit literally includes conspiracy allegations, They're now whining. They didn't say it out loud at every possible legal moment, so you can't hold it against us. They're really trying to rewrite history here. So basically, the plaintiffs, these people acted on Scientology's behalf. The judge, this sure looks like conspiracy. Scientology, okay, but they didn't use the word conspiracy in bold, underlined, 18-point font with footnotes. So not fair. Not fair. So really, the TLDR on this is Danny Masterson's victims say they were harassed by the cult of Scientology and Masterson's team. Scientology tried to get the lawsuit thrown out using anti-SLAPP laws. The judge says, nah, man, nope. Now they're appealing, saying harassment was actually freedom of speech. The assistant acted alone. The judge is being too smart. And conspiracy, that's such a harsh word. Can't we just say coordinated inconvenience? But they are being called out on it, and it is lovely. I'm going to link it down below. You can read the whole thing. There is a lot there, and it is getting it's getting interesting, folks. It is getting interesting. Christina Kerf has a question off topic, but have you read about Ryan Reynolds doing paid appearances for Grant Cardone? Ron Reynolds has his own other scandal going on these days. Yes, Christina. In fact, I think we talked about it last week, but yes, I'm with you on that. It was scandalous. Absolutely scandalous. All right, so now we need to talk about John Travolta, and something that at first I was like, I don't know about this. Every time I see a headline that's like, has John Travolta left Scientology? Has Tom Cruise left Scientology? I'm like, yeah, no, probably not. But I read it anyways, and there were parts of this that made me go, I don't know. So this is out of Australia, where I feel like they get to say more things and get away with more in the press than they would here in the US. Let's take a look at this. Let me get it pulled up here. So has John Travolta quit Scientology? And at first I just rolled my eyes at this and I'm like, what are you talking about? No, he has not quit Scientology. What is happening? John Travolta has been Scientology's golden goose for decades, the A-list poster child, the OG celeb Thetan wrangler, or at least until Tom Cruise came along. But now he's out here clubbing in Miami with Randall walking lawsuit Emmett, and Scientology is probably dialing up their ethics officer like it's a DEF CON situation, because this is not necessarily good. And I didn't understand a lot of what was going on here, but I came to the understanding that Randall Emmett is the director of Cash Out, ex-fiance of a Vanderpump Rules cast member, and the human version of his cease and desist letter. Allegedly, he paid drug dealers and prostitutes via his assistant. What is with these celebrities trying to get their assistants in trouble? Here we see it again. Allegedly, Randall denies it all, of course. And Travolta is out here buying bottle service and fist bumping this guy like purification rundowns never existed. But I guess he could maybe go do a purif and cleanse himself. So it makes you wonder a lot of things, right? Like, yeah, they just worked together on a film. That's one thing, right? What are you supposed to do? Like, you don't know, because you work with somebody, everything about them, right? Sometimes you find out things after the fact, but it turns out a lot of this was already out. So partying together with these guys and John Travolta, that's like if your Alcoholics Anonymous sponsor showed up at your wine tasting, okay? It sends a mixed message. I get so many mixed messages from John Travolta because you guys know that I'm holding out hope that he drives by the Clearwater protest. Why? Because he's protesting. And I know you guys are all like, look, Natalie, you're way too optimistic here. He's probably just going to and from Flag. And I'd be like, yeah, you're probably right. But then I saw this and I'm like, oh, is he going to get in trouble? What's happening? So Travolta has credited Scientology with getting him into the big time, right? But he skipped, I think it was like not last year, it might have been the year before. He skipped a Tom Cruise gala, right? Hanging out with a dude. He's also hanging out. This guy allegedly made Bruce Willis work through early stage dementia. So the media is not kind to this man, and it sounds like he's done things that are not kind. Not John Travolta, this other guy who he was partying with, and that sounds not like an operating thing, Thetan thing to do. I mean, if I got in trouble because I was a Scientology operating Thetan for doing strip fitness classes and going on dates with my husband at the time instead of attending Scientology meetings, then I don't know how he's getting away with this. John's wife, Kelly, and his friend, very good friend, Kirstie Alley, both died of cancer in recent years. And the rumor was that it really kind of shook his faith in Scientology, right? And I thought that too. But he is surrounded by Scientology handlers. But the fact that he didn't show up to Tom Cruise's Scientology prom back when, I think it was 23. It's basically, it's like the equivalent of ghosting Christmas Mass. When you miss a gala and you hang out with a scandal magnet, people start to wonder, are you spiritually freelancing now? Have you gone rogue like Danny Masterson's assistant? Now, officially, no. But signs point to a soft fade. And I am choosing to believe that that's what's happening with John Travolta. He is softly fading out of Scientology. Like when somebody stops posting in a group chat but doesn't formally leave, you just kind of become inactive. If he has left, expect Scientology to say nothing until someone publishes a memoir titled Saturday Night Disconnection. Then maybe they're still not going to talk about it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think that John Travolta is slowly leaving Scientology, or am I just living in Delulu land, which honestly I'm completely okay with? I like being in my own world. I spent a lot of time there. And I still choose to believe that he drives by the protest because he secretly wants to leave. So I don't know. Julia's with me, hoping he leaves. So tell me what you think. Even put a 1 in the chat if you think John Travolta is secretly, slowly leaving Scientology. And a 2, I'm happy to accept that, Natalie, this is part of your Delulu, but we support you, girl, because you are a hopeless optimist. I'm good with either one. You tell me. Katie says, nope. One can hope. Exactly. Thank you, Mars. I hope so too. Thank you for the ones. I'm not completely delusional. I very much could be, but I choose to believe it. I just really do. Let's see what you guys think about it. That's right, Sandy McKenna. 1 minute you're doing touch assist. In fact, John Travolta, true story, did a touch assist on Marlon Brando. 1 minute you're doing touch assist on Marlon Brando. The next you're doing tequila shots with a scandal magnet. And yeah, the guy is a scandal magnet, not John Travolta, but the Randall guy who he's hanging out with. So very sus. I mean, you got Tom Cruise on one hand who won't hang out with people who once went to a strip club. True story. He is I guess the person who gets to judge everybody else by his ethical and moral standard. If you are not in alignment with Tom Cruise's moral compass, then you're just not doing it right. All right, y'all, tell me your thoughts on that. In the meantime, I'm moving on. We're going to talk about Relatable Reese, who's like, enough is enough. There's a couple clips that we're going to look at, some realizations that she had tied into having been a Scientologist, and let's discuss. Let me pull up this first one here. Let's watch this.
With this particular incident that happened on Saturday with this guy, and this guy was in my face, right? He was kind of towering over me.
And if you follow her channel, you might not, if you don't watch Relatable Reese, you might not know the whole story, but she had this altercation with these guys one guy at a restaurant. There was a misunderstanding, and then there was another altercation. This girl gets in quite a few altercations. I mean, I barely leave the house, so maybe that's why I don't. But when I do, there's not a lot of, it's just not as exciting, but she's got some excitement going on. So listen to this.
And sure, at the time I was scared. I was uncomfortable. Of course, when somebody's in your personal space like that, taking up all your personal space, that's uncomfortable for sure. And is it triggering for someone like me, especially because I've had a lot of men do that to me? Hey, Barbara, wait, absolutely. And my therapist was doing this, across the screen. I said it was very triggering because actually Jeff used to really do that to me.
And for those who don't know, Jeff is her former husband.
he'd get in my face and he would scream so hard that every time I'd have to clean my glasses, he'd spit all over my glasses. He'd scream and get in my face. So it was, I don't like to use the word triggering, but that's the only word I can think of right now. It was very triggering for me. Okay, great. So we see that, we acknowledge that. Yes, I agree with that, Kathy Ann. So let's fast forward to what I told my therapist. And I said to him, the shift that I'm feeling the most is that guy in particular. I would have typically after, so the first incident with that guy, I started going down the list of what I did wrong. I'm like,
now, what's interesting about this to me is, as a former Scientologist, in Scientology, when you get in trouble, it's all completely, if you're in trouble with Scientology, you did it. You did everything. It's all your fault. If you were trying to hold Scientology accountable for something, you still did everything. It is still all your fault. So the very first thing that happens in Scientology when you get in trouble is it's like, okay, well, you need to write up your overage and your withholds, which are like your sins, anything that you did. And when you grow up in Scientology and you're indoctrinated with this school of thought, anything that happens to you, if it's a negative experience, positive experience, is completely your fault. Now, there are times when that's true, right? Like if you go up to somebody and you whack them over the head with a bat, they might have something to say about that and you cause that to happen. But what happens with a lot of people who've been in Scientology, especially growing up in it, is it's kind of an inability to separate those things out, where you can often feel like everything is completely your fault, where you don't then stand up for yourself in situations when you should. Now, again, having said that, there's also times when we might do things that create a situation. We absolutely created that situation. But in the times in Scientology where somebody was a victim of something and you victim blame, it's all part of that mentality. And breaking free from that, in my opinion, is such a big part of healing in Scientology, because it's just not true. I mean, you guys know the story of my essay and what happened to me and how I was completely victim blamed for that. 100% by my Scientology handlers and convinced that it was my fault. It's something that I did. For a long time after that, even after I left Scientology, I was still stuck in a lot of that Scientology mindset. And so separating that out, I think, is really key to somebody's healing, not just from Scientology. It got me thinking, how many people out there, maybe some of you in the chat or on the replay, who, whether you grew up in maybe a violent home, there was some type of abuse, or it was a relationship, you might recognize that feeling. You get blamed so much that you are a piece of crap, right? That you're the person who's making all this happen. You can sometimes even be gaslit into believing things are your fault that actually were not your fault. And what you saw and you witnessed didn't actually happen. And you get re-victimized all over again. But that actually doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anybody. You can't move forward from that. So it's a really interesting topic. And I'm glad she's talking to her therapist about this, because breaking free from a high control group or an abusive situation, in my mind, in my opinion, they're still learning what aspects you can be responsible for, right? If you were in an abusive situation, it's not like, oh, it's your fault because this person physically abused you, right? I'm not talking about that. But like, say you get into an argument with a neighbor or something and you realize like, I was just kind of being unfair about that, or I was being judgmental. You can take responsibility for that and you can move on. But in Scientology, that doesn't exist. There's no forgiveness. There's no grace. You have to completely make amends. What I spoke to you about earlier in this video, doing steps A through E as a Scientologist to get back into the good graces of Scientology, really shows you how hardcore they are about this. It's all about making up the damage to them. That can end up giving you this really warped sense of what is your responsibility and what is not your responsibility. And that is a lot to work through, which is why, in my opinion, I think that therapy post Scientology can be very helpful if you can find the right therapist, the right type of therapy that resonates with you. And you might need to check with more than one, because this can end up, if you find yourself with the same situation happening over and over and over again, then maybe there's something there where, you might need to change in a way that you're showing up. And that doesn't, again, in Scientology, it's totally only ever completely your fault. There is no growth from it because they can never admit what it is that they did. So I'm curious because I've been following along with this on, how that plays into it, right? Because she does seem to get into a lot of altercations. So is there something that she says or does, or is it, taking it too far? Is it a boundary issue? But in my mind, and I'm so glad she shares when she talks to her therapist about this, a lot of this, I can see that unraveling of these old ways of thinking and trying to find new solutions. And I think that's really interesting. There's another clip. Let's see here. Let's look at this here. I didn't label it. Now I can't remember what it's about. So let's find out together.
Due to Scientology being against this type.
Oh, I remember. This is another thing I forgot that she brought up in this video that was amazing. I completely forgot that we did this in Scientology. Listen to this, you guys. I cannot believe I forgot about this.
Yeah, I talked about that yesterday. Yes, very much so grateful. I struggled big time and really had a hard time accepting the fact that I need therapy because we're trained. Therapy is the worst possible thing you can do in Scientology. You're never allowed to even look in that direction. So much so that we signed something for CCHR. We sign a contract with CCHR, Citizens Commission on Human Rights, that if we are ever involuntarily put into a psychiatric hospital, we sign something in advance that CCHR can come get us out, that we do not give permission and CCHR can come get you.
Can you imagine? I mean, and that's what happened. That's what happened sometimes with Scientologists who find themselves, look at Lisa McPherson, right? That woman was taking her clothes off in the middle of the street in Clearwater for help. And what happened? Scientologists showed up, took her out of there. It makes it okay to be able to do that. The fear of getting into the hands of psychiatrists as a Scientologist is so huge. I can still remember the anxiety as a child. And this is what pisses me off about this the most is Scientology putting this on the kids, making them afraid of even speaking to a school counselor. You can't even do that. Anybody with the word counselor, therapy. And if you're familiar with the school system, often the school counselor is a person who also helps you figure out your schedule, helps you figure out what classes you should be taking. You have a conversation. That person is a resource to help students in our public school system, probably private schools too. I don't know. But yeah, creating that fear. I can remember it clearly, being terrified when I was born and raised in Hawaii. And tell me if this happened at your school. So this would have been probably the 70s, early 80s. We would get vision tests and do hearing tests in school as a screening. I don't even know if they still do that, but they did it in Hawaii. I don't know if they did it in other places. And I can remember as a child being terrified, like, what if they're going to ask me about counseling? What if this is therapy? What kind of test is this? Because I knew how much I would get in trouble with Scientology or my parents. Like I was terrified about it. A Time to Change says, I saw my school counselor twice, once freshman year, then once senior year. Yeah. I mean, it helps. They help you with your schedules, what you should be, or any issues you might be having. But a Scientology kid is not going to be allowed to go to the school counselor and say, I'm being bullied. They're not. So what happens then? You go to your parents who are too busy doing Scientology. I mean, you see the problems here with this in making children terrified of asking for help outside of Scientology. And it starts very young when you're in a Scientology family. Pocono Pluck says schools still do screenings. Okay, cool. I'm glad they do that. Arkansas Flamingo says they did the screenings in Arkansas schools back in the day. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they still did because I don't remember my kids doing them. My kids got their screening at the pediatrician's office, but I don't recall them doing it at school. Pincha Leslie says, eye, dental, and physical during PE time, or we'd take a break with these volunteer people. So, but is it from back in the day? Hey, Hunter Bay, or is it being done still now? That's what I wasn't sure about. I was curious about that. But tell me what you think. Tell me what you all think. If you're on the replay, jump in the comments. Do they still do screenings? And what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Terrifying children to go to a psychologist. I think about the little boy who approached Farrell Cheryl. Why do you hate Scientology? Which one, props to that kid for being curious and asking a question, going up to adults and people who are protesting Scientology. But he cannot go to his school counselor if he isn't indeed a Scientologist or in a Scientology family. He is being indoctrinated to believe he cannot ask for help outside of Scientology because you got to be so afraid of the therapist, the psychologist, and the psychs. Poconoplex is still done now for kids who don't have that support or coverage at home. Okay, that is cool. That's good. Julia says the personality tests are a joke. They absolutely are. They so are. Moose on the Loose says we did screenings in school here in NOLA in the 2000s. You were in school in the 2000s. It's just so funny. It's funny for me to hear when people were born in the 2000s. I'm like, dang, I'm getting old. KDC says, my cult, number 1, must drink coffee. Number 2, lots of labs. Well, let's get to that question of the day and talk about that. December says they don't do them in my area anymore. Haven't for years. It's all on the parent to have it done on their own. I taught for 33 years. Yeah, I do. Okay, so Fat Grammy's saying that her grandbabies had vision tests. So maybe it changes by community. Constance June is saying the scoliosis screening scared me. Yeah, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. That I feel like they've stopped doing. I don't remember my kids coming home and saying that. Moose on the Loose, yeah, you're a 90s baby. I could be your mom. My oldest was born in 90. I love that. That's fabulous. Let's talk about this question of the day, you guys, where it was, if you had to start your own cult, what would your top 2 rules be? All right, here we go. Hermie, no bullying, must love animals. I love that. Jean Marie, top 2 rules. Never leave anyone behind, and respect is mandatory toward one another. I love that too. Cheryl, bakery cult. You must make sourdough bread and you must wear prairie aprons. Oh my goodness. KFIC 89 says the rule in this cult would be have to be able to cook whatever I want. Trixie says the rules for her cult would be cannot be better dressed than me is number 1, and need to do my housework. I hate cleaning would be number 2. You could get your cult members to do that for you. I mean, it works for David Miscavige. He's got people tearing out bathrooms and building spas for him. Robin Dickman says rule number 1 in my cult, must bring edibles. Girl, sign me up for your cult. Take my money. 2, must at least have 75-inch TV. Oh, I'd be out of your cult because I don't think mine is that. No, I don't have a 75-inch TV. What am I thinking? But I would like one. Linda Lou says, encourage each other and lift each other up. And 2, self-affirmation daily. I love that. James Still says his cult will be no children and must have a good sense of humor. Sign me up. Sign me up for yours. Steffi Thee says, you must eat carbs as the number 1 rule, lots of them, and you must be sarcastic. I would also join your cult. Sign me up. Always Tuck and Roll says, do what you want, as long as everyone involved consents. White chocolate gets renamed for accuracy. That's a good one. Lily says in her cult, number 1, live life to the fullest. Number 2, be the best version of yourself. I love that too. Now, Sharon is saying, no eating chewing gum or ice in front of me. 2, members must do all outside work that is needed because I won't. That's so funny on the chewing gum and the eating ice. You know, gosh, I'm just realizing like I don't hardly chew gum anymore. You know why? My jaw gets sore. All the yapping I do between live streaming, and I realized recently, you guys, that I voice to text almost always, and I think it's putting a little strain on my voice. I asked ChatGPT, like, here's what's happening, doctor? And it's like, well, live streamers, if you do a lot of live streams and you talk a lot outside of that, there were some other things too, like allergies. It's probably a combination, but I'm going to start walking around and being like, I'm on vocal rest. I can't talk to you. So if there's somebody I don't want to talk to, I'm just going to text or have to say, I'm on vocal rest. I have to protect my instrument. Oh, I just entertain myself all day. I swear. I swear. Bo Beats. My cult, black sheep only. I think a lot of us would qualify for your cult. Susan Good Grandma, thank you. I love this. Let's get the like number up to 500 before the streams end. We can do it. So I guess that would be in my cult. Number one, you have to hit like and subscribe. Number two, you have to have a sense of humor and not be down with cults. I love that. I'm going to go read the rest of these, but I got to get going for now. So y'all, I hope you all get out and have an amazing cult-free day.